Thank you all for joining us today in our continued O4S webinar series, where we will be speaking with leaders about the industry trends and the innovation in the organizations that they lead. Today joining us is Ravish Ambol. Ravish is an alumnus of IIM Calcutta. He has over 20 years of experience in agri and agri-input industry in organizations such as Monsanto, Escorts, and for the last 6 years, he's the marketing head at Savannah Seeds Private Limited. Thanks for taking the time for joining us today, Ravish.
Yeah, thank you.
And we are really happy to have you on this series. And I think we've been interacting for a while, so I'm pretty positive that we are going to have a great session, and it's going to be very informative for the folks who are joining us today as well. So guys, in our session today, we are going to be speaking with Ravish about his experience in agri and agri-inputs industry and its evolution over the years that he's been involved with it. We will also be focusing on initiatives he's undertaking to drive growth by digitizing channel incentives at Savannah Seeds. And we will finally be touching upon where he feels the industry is headed in the years to come. And we will close the session by giving about 10 to 12 minutes for any Q&A which folks who are attending this webinar have. And that is more or less the format today. So, Ravish, over to you. I think I'd love to have your views on, firstly, the insights into the organization you are in and what do you guys do, and can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, great. So thanks everyone, first and foremost, for giving your time and allowing me to speak for this specific session. And I think it's good that we exchange knowledge amongst all of us. Maybe I think as what Advait would have suggested that we are going to have this session for next 20-30 minutes, and then maybe we could keep some time in terms to have Q&A from the folks or from the participants whomsoever is there on the call. So basically, let's start from what exactly I represent. So I'm from Savannah Seeds, and Savannah is a part of Rice Tech, and Rice Tech is a part of LGT Group. So basically, our main business been get driven from LGT vision, and LGT is into agriculture and food. We're into forestry, they are into renewable energy, and also into real estate. So agriculture and food is one of their domain, and in that specific domain, Ristic is a parent company, and Savannah Seeds is a sister concern of Ristic, represents India in the Asia Pacific. And I had the marketing, and our major we are the company who deals into paddy seeds only. Globally also, we are the largest in paddy seed, and in India also, we are one of the largest seed marketer of paddy seeds into different parts of India. So that's a short brief about Savannah, and this company has been founded in 2010. We have initiated our product trials in 2008 and 2010 with this company got founded, and it's pretty nascent stage, like it's hardly 12 years we're into the market, and in a very short span of time, we became one of the India's leading paddy seed company. We have some differentiated products and technology, and that's what makes us stand out in the market and adding value to the customers.
Thanks for those insights. I know for a fact over the discussions that we've had earlier that Savannah itself is focused a lot on innovation, specifically where the paddy seeds business is concerned, and you have not left any stone unturned working in this area. So amazing to know that. Moving on ahead, I think being in the industry for almost 20 years now, I'm curious to know from you how you have seen the industry evolving, because the 20 years means I think you've been from early 2000s till date, and there has been a lot of evolution. So how have you seen it over the years? And I would love to hear more from you about it.
But surely, I see. I think most of us been aware about and read in our school textbook also that India's more than 50% population resides into an agriculture. Somewhat their livelihood has been primary livelihood has been dependent on agriculture. So still the facts would remain the same. Nearly 50-55% odd people's livelihood is into an agriculture right now. And what has got evolved is the kind of awareness, technological penetration which has been happened. So I think most of the folks which has been there on the call, they've been more aware than me that the kind of penetration of telecom which has been there in India and the life which has been getting get changed considering the infrastructure which got built over the period of time in the last 2 decades. I was just bringing certain facts been out. So it's almost 520 million odd users is resides into rural India, and which is the largest chunk, I would say. And also been trying to figure it out this internet penetration also, which is approximately 345 or 350 million odd internet user, which has been there in rural India. And I think that's where the major shift lies from a technology perspective. And I think we've been keeping that discussion very precise to that this the interest of the requirement of this audience. So I would see that yes, first and foremost, a lot of transformation has got happened in the past 2 decades, considering the development and the infrastructure which has been part of it. Infrastructure predominantly on the technology and the digital side, and especially post COVID. And I think if someone on would have done the survey, what has really revolutionized post COVID in terms like the excess of technology or excess of digitalization, which got penetrated across the hinterland of India, has been significant. And even like we've been Delhi on and off, we've been visiting farmers, their family, and the penetrations which we come across. So most of the farmers in their house has the smartphone user. Even if the farmer is not accessing the technology, someone within his family has been accessing that specific information, and is also one of the primary source in terms to make certain key decisions of his life and get driven from that angle. And also, if we talk about the channel part, which is also been catering that specific requirement to the farmer, the generation which came into the business is more tech savvy. And maybe I would see that in the next 5 years to 10 years down the line, a lot of transformation is going to be part of on the technology driven side. And that's where I think I would see that overall as an industry has a requirement to be get evolved. So I think these are certain facts which really make this overall part very interesting. And I have seen certain transformation which has been happening from an Indian agriculture perspective in the last 2 decades. Like we became one of the largest producer and the exporter of cotton, and that has happened predominantly by having the technology at farm of the farmer. So when I was with the Monsanto and some sort of revolution which has happened with the Pulkar technology, which has made India to be self-sustainable in that specific domain. Otherwise, we were one of the largest importer of cotton, and now we become the one of the largest exporter of cotton also in this case. And I think some of the technological intervention in an agriculture will get driven from the government of India, public-private partnership, and private companies. And I think that where the whole shift get lies. And very interestingly, in the agriculture domain, I think the important piece is to understand the seed replacement rate. Uh, I'm talking very specifically this insight because if you try to read, if the farmer would go to the market and buy a new seed, what percentage of seed replacement rate in different crop has happened in the past 2 decades, or maybe say last 1 decade itself. And if the farmer would be going and buying new inputs, it means that he is going to require and access those information in advance that which inputs would be required for his field and for his crop. And that's where I think the percentage, the huge jump which has happened in from 2003 onwards to now 2020 data which would be available publicly on internet. And you would see that this 55% odd seed replacement rate is a significant jump. It's like half of the population would be coming and buying new agri inputs every year, which means that they would be accessing the quality inputs on ground. Second is also a lot of information got consumed and also gave a huge boost to the overall economy, which has been get driven towards it. And that's how we became the one of the, I would say, the quality producer, the largest crop producers in major crops like wheat, maize, cotton, rice. And I think those are the major one on the food grain side. One of the second largest producer of fruits, vegetable, largest producer of dairy. So I think all this thing has been happened because of certain quality inputs which get driven in the last 2 decades, considering the infrastructure, awareness, and the availability which got played a pivotal role. And especially from 2008 onwards, the kind of smartphone or the internet penetration been moved up, and it's got rampant in the phase of 2015 onwards, and especially post-COVID and geo transformation. I think that has really changed the overall arena and the way the business will get driven in the industry right now.
Amazing. So that's a very the seed input rate and change that you had spoken about is very interesting. So it is obviously clear that firstly there are a lot of players in the market who are vying for the same who are vying for the same market, and clearly while the farmer is doing his own analysis of how and it has to be a crop by crop analysis that he does based on what he paid, how much he got, what was his yield, etc. Now he's also obviously, I mean, it is a big risky decision for him, right? So the organization communication connect with the farmer to educate him is obviously a big role, and that is quite a key differentiator in how organizations are currently driving their business. To educate their end users and the farmers, all obviously thanks to the infrastructure like you had talked about, the mobile network, etc., is able to access this. So, I mean, would that be a right assumption of the reasons why this change is being brought about even faster, like you said, maybe post COVID?
Yes, definitely. And I think if we would see the current government initiatives in terms towards the digital India, and especially their thrust in focus has been more on the rural side. As I've been talking about that, a lot of agri-inputs percentage rate of usage has gone up. There was also threat about the spuriousity or genuinity of the product. A lot of spurious players would also be started playing into the market. Genuinity would have become the concerns, and that's when the government chip in terms to bring certain solutions for with the help of technology to prove that whatever the agri inputs which would get used, it should showcase some sort of a genuinity. Maybe it would be become the part of Seed Bill Act. The government has initiated that specific discussion in their Seed Bill from 2019, and maybe in a couple of years we would see that this would become the part of a standard norm. Government has designed the Sathi portal at which the farmer can go and cross-check the genuinity about the product. And this currently is into development phase. Certain states has already initiated that specific program, but across India, maybe in a year or 2 years, we would see that specific program would be get registered. Then every farmer has the access about the quality of the product which he's been using it, which means that only the quality player who's been into this domain and been R&D focused, uh, those players will be able to get benefit and would be able to provide the quality inputs to the farmer. And that's how the whole value chain will get differ over a period of time. And we could see the benefit of this entire value chain getting translated into the success of Indian economy from an agriculture domain. And I think most of us been aware about this how the GDP will play a role considering the 55% population. Agriculture it's still been a smaller factor in the overall sector. Maybe say from 15% to 20% is the odd range of the GDP which agriculture and the allied services can contribute. But more than 50% population been reside into this domain. Similarly, if we talk about from a manufacturing side, which is approximate 23% to say 30% odd to the GDP, but only 22% of the population will reside in that specific one. And if we talk about the service sector, which is India's, I would say, a cash cow, which has been happening in the GDP, which is like approximate 62 odd, 62, 55 to 60 odd percent in the GDP. which only contributes to 22% of the population. I think the mass lies still in that specific agri domain, and that's where the digitization is going to play a pivotal role. I was just referring some of the information which has been like ENAM is one of the portal which government has initiated. The approximate 17 to 18 million farmers got registered, and approximate 2.5 lakh trader is also been registered, digitized, where the approximately 17, 18 million odd farmers can trade their produce on that digital portal, and approximate 2.5 lakh trader can help them in terms to buy and sell and other stuff which has been part of it. And that's a significant chunk. Uh, there is a debatable number, but approximate 114 to 150 million odd farmers been there across India goes into a typical farming part, and only 10% has been there right now in the portal of Enam. There is a huge opportunity which is going to be get played role, and I think we could see that in the next 5 years, this significant intervention which has been happening through digitization at various scheme level also, which brings that specific fold on a common platform. Even if you would see the number, which I think the part which is more on the channel side for which the discussion what we had kept. So approximate 3 lakh to 3.5 lakh are the registered license agri input user which has been there as a retailer uh, in India. Whereas if we talk about the hinterland during the season period of time, a lot of Kirana stores also started selling seeds and other agri inputs. Those are not registered one. But even if we talk about 3 lakh to 3.5 lakh agri input retailers got registered, that brings the huge chunk of connectivity. And I think as I was talking about the second generation, which is coming into the business, which are more educated, more tech savvy, and that's where I would say the whole switch which is going to be required, because though agriculture has been so significant in India, it's still been lagging behind in terms to have those technological access or usage. It could have been a multiple reason, but even if you would see the customer who has been part of that specific sector, be it farmer, be it channel, or be it a company, even if you would see their individual role uh, in terms of technology uses, apart from the agri, it's for other industry and the services has been very high. So, and I think one day we were discussing about the same topic, that the same dealer might be using Amazon or some other platform to access certain products and other stuffs.
Correct.
And he would be preferring to have all the informations details on his mobile, be it about delivery, be it about order placement, be about any other transaction which has been happening. Whereas those information is still been lagging in his own business through which he's been earning a lot, and that's why his livelihood which has been get driven to the business of whatever the agri inputs which he's been part of, or maybe the farmer which is into an agriculture operations. And I think that's where we would see that there is a huge scope and opportunity which needs to be get engaged. And I think in the past 1 decade, especially in the past decade or so, company like Savannah company, maybe other MNC companies, and let's say every Indian company would have started realizing it, experimenting it, and building their infrastructure, so that in future, as the time progresses, maybe this would become an immediate requirement, and we will be ready in terms to cater their uh, service them, and also the cater them in terms of their requirement.
Understood. So I think so many interesting points that you touched upon in terms of how technology adoption is driving driving the growth of this market. And I often come and, well, I get a chance to speak with folks who have set up newer plants, set up new seed manufacturing plants, and who are getting into it because it's it is a usually profitable market when it is done right. But I think an important part now is that with more the number of competitors, the idea is obviously that, and the fact that the entire industry is regulated to an extent by the government, uh, the fact that better quality of seed is obviously available to the farmer. He will get better yield, and at the end of the day, better profits for him. Uh, but that also means that for organizations such as yours and other organizations in agri and agri input, the race is getting heated up, and the market has a lot is is flooded with a lot of products. Some of them have the same level of quality, some of them may not, but it is still the client is still the retailer who's selling it, or the farmer who's there. uh, he has access to a lot of products, so he obviously needs to be educated. But kind of moving into what we wanted to, what was one of the things that we were looking at discussing in this, which was how channel incentives, which is what a marketeer has at his, the tool the marketeer has to drive sales of his product through a retailer or a dealer in this industry. Um, just I was wondering how, if you could touch upon a few aspects of how you are able to kind of deploy them better to drive your sales. And I know that you've been working on initiatives in your organizations as well. So would love to hear from you about that.
Sure, sure. And I think before I'll touch base upon this channel incentive program, I think first and foremost, what you have spoken about, considering the competition which has been coming up, considering the overall lucrativeness about this industry, the profitability, or the overall mass which decides. So first and foremost, if the competition has been there, it's good for farmer, it's good for the overall industry, because that's what make everyone to price for better products to be there in the market, or better services to the customer. So competition is healthy and it's good. But as I was talking about, because this industry and finally the way we would be deal with the customer has been not so educated, not so aggressive, not so progressive, and also would have become the part in the history how the industry has got evolved. So a lot of technological intervention which has also been required in this industry compared to the other industry which has happened. Like if you talk about more than 40 odd industry you can classify, and agriculture is one of them. Agriculture and allied is one of them. If you talk about the automation or technological penetration which has happened in, say, automobile sector, or say other biotechnological sector, or medical sector, or tourism sector, versus what has happened in the agriculture, has been lagging behind in terms of the industry adoption or the company adoption. And I think the interesting part is this entire sector is been driven through an R&D. So research and development is a very key role in this entire industry I would talk about. And for bringing, I'm talking from a very seed perspective, for bringing any single product, new product to the market, it's almost take 6 to 8 years time frame in terms to bring the product to the market. And the process which generally goes through is not too much digitized, or not too much having the technological interventions from an IT perspective. And that's where the future also lies, and companies been trying to make sure that how they can bring the visibility from from that specific R&D to the end of customer. And then we can bridge the entire gap which has been there during this entire journey, which has happened from product ideation, product R&D, from production to the farmer's hand, to the end customer's hand. And that's where I think a lot of interventions at different functions which has been required currently. In isolations, those works happens, but there is a requirement to have a single flow, which is going to be part of it from an IT solution perspective. And that's where I think the traceability part, or maybe the intervention part of this technology is going to is very important. Dealer, distributor, or a sales channel is one of the part which comes in this entire chain, and that would be more from a push or pull perspective I would talk about. So from a dealer incentive program, I think the current way of operation of all the companies most have been that we have been billing to a distributor, and from distributor it goes to the retailer, and from retailer to the farmer. whatever the incentivization program, anyway, all the companies will get run on agri-inputs, be it seed or agrochemical. It's mostly being given through their ERP system, which is generally goes in the hand of distributors. Whereas the actual seller of my product is a retailer. And that's where the actual benefit which should go to the hand of a retailer generally will not reach, because that especially one is, well, first and foremost, the visibility is been lagging behind. Second is the flow of information also, and also the incentivization process, which happens as per the process of all the company which has. So the requirement, or as I was talking about, the kind of penetration which has happened and the visibility which company wants to bring in, because the window for doing a business of any agrochemical or agri inputs is pretty short for that specific period of time, and quick decisions would be required to be get made. So lack of information, uh, which gives, which actually makes unsustainable to certain extent or not profitable to certain extent. And I think the channel incentive program or the penetration of this technology really help in terms to have that specific visibility, flow of information, and incentivizing to the end customer or to actual seller, for which he's been responsible for. And it's the right time in their hands. So I think with that specific note, all the company must be trying these different programs to be get run, and the ultimate, the main objective of driving those programs in terms to have access of the information, which currently companies will lagging behind. So if I would be knowing that my product is got sold at which location, I have a lot of opportunity later on in terms to do work upon. If the company has a visibility who is actual customer and who is selling my product, those two clear visibility will be there with the company, I think that company will have an extra edge in the market in terms to operate. And for which I think whatever the channel incentive program which company has designed in past, uh, has certain limitation, because a lot of technology which was not been present. Now the technology penetration has been there. New generation has been part of it, and we could see that by utilizing that those combination, the flow of information and the accessibility is going to be at ease. So yeah, I think those are the key information for which reason behind for driving that channel incentive program, for any of the company which is
Cool. I think I think that's I love the way how you kind of summed it up about the entire uh, about how the specific technicalities of how the entire channel incentive programs work specifically in agri, and I can only imagine because looking at the entire Indian hinterland where you have such deep supply chains where you're reaching out to the last mile for sales to retailers who are in like little villages, etc. You are building supply chains which are absolutely intricate, and you have a huge network of retailers, and given how the entire industry is, it's almost perennial because you'll have either Rabi, once that goes down you have Kharif, you have then vegetable seeds which is throughout the year, and those are only seeds, and then you have other inputs like fertilizers and
yeah.
growth enablers, etc., which run throughout the year. So it's an ongoing cycle for all these organizations to keep selling, to keep incentivizing, and to be on top of the game, because it's this engagement with their channels that enable them to be successful in selling. So totally agree with you, and well,
But I have a point at which in this case,
huh,
despite the company has been trying for this sort of program from last 10 years, except one or two, none of them are successful.
uh,
Uh,
what
and
okay.
there is a reason behind those things. And I would see that reason might be get coming down maybe in next coming years. But the reason would have been that, as I've told, the window is very short. So still, a dealer should, like many of the company would have designed their own white label application to run their channel incentive program. Whereas as we have already spoken that that specific dealer is not the dealer for that specific company. He's been selling 100 other products.
Absolutely.
Be it agrochemical, be it seed of multiple companies, agrochemical of multiple companies, fertilizers of multiple companies. And he cannot have all those 50, 60, 15, 40 applications in his mobile. Okay. And that too also the percentage of business which reside at his shop, somewhere it might be high, somewhere it might be low. So the success of running this specific program from a company side has been a challenge. So real time, so the objective in terms to access the real time information not been achieved because first and foremost the window of business is very short. The sales window is very short, and that specific window to bring or to ask that specific dealer to do and to provide that specific information while doing a scanning or any other mode of operation is a tough and is a challenging one, for which anyway company runs a lot of promotional mechanism through which they wanted to have real-time information, but it has been a challenge. So I think, and maybe I might sound different, but the aggregation part would be required in the future, where the way, like for example, even if I use my any QR code scanner in terms to scan any of the information, or maybe my camera itself will be able to read and then take me directly to that specific website for payment or for accessing any of the information. Tomorrow, that sort of solution would be required at the dealer end also, where with one single scanner application or maybe one simple mobile camera specific information, he should be able to access, will record the information and also been able to incentivize that specific part. And I think I see those challenges, and we also come across those challenges while operating our own incentive programs there on ground. So the objective in terms to have the real-time information, which generally doesn't happen. Uh, Maybe once the season get over, we'll process for a certain window period of time, and in that specific window, we get those information. So broadly, we would be doing it like what exactly has happened. What actually benefiting in this entire program is at the end of the day, though it's late for almost all the company, but at least company would be knowing it who has finally sold my product. Maybe 50%, maybe 70%, maybe 80%, depending on their thrust in terms to drive that specific program. But that visibility also has been good enough. So slowly, gradually, from nowhere, at least we would have reached to this much of milestone is significant enough. How far we would go ahead in future, I think that's where the different business models, the convenience part is going to play a key role at the channel program, channel incentive program. Maybe company will have their own way of dashboards, incentivizations, their own server, or maybe on their own screens and that stuff. But bringing convenience to a dealer is going to be important in terms to being a part of this entire program, I would say.
Absolutely. Again, completely agree with you. I think we have also seen organizations which, because who have built their app, who have reached, who have gotten the technical solution, and there is the technical solution how this uh, lack of direct connect between the last mile seller and the manufacturer has been kind of developed. But what you said also is I mean, logically, it's such a true thing, because any retailer might be stocking products for from maybe many dozens of manufacturers, and he cannot actually be expected to have a app for all of them and open a different app and scan every time. So that is a level of aggregation which definitely would help making life easier for him. And at the end of the day, success of any business will be defined by how easy they make life for their retailers to kind of engage with them. So, uh, totally,
And
totally.
yeah, and I think who could have thought about that your own bank is going to be available complete solution on your WhatsApp. Nobody has thought through that on a WhatsApp platform. You're going to have your HDFC or ICICI or a Kotak who's going to give you end-to-end solution of banking. Otherwise, people would have not felt safe on WhatsApp doing
Absolutely.
financial transaction. But now the entire banking solution, you are not supposed to go and download your banking application or reaching to a customer care for doing any transaction. You can do entire operation through WhatsApp itself. And I think uh, those sort of rapid change what we could have seen, which has been happening in those domains, would also be required in agri sector specifically for giving those convenience in terms to drive these sort of programs and channel uh, reward recognition incentive programs, I would say. And I think sooner or later it's going to become the available solution, maybe from your organization, maybe some other players might be working upon. So I think the aggregation is going to play a key role in terms to make sure that this entire program for a company will become successful. I
Yeah.
think the only success which company has got till now in terms to have some visibility, which are not directly in the part of the books, but at least they have the visibility who's actually selling my product or it's going in which hand, which customer's hand to a certain extent.
To a certain
Uh,
extent.
Apart from the ERP, like whomsoever has been directly dealing with the distributor, which is the complete financial transaction which is happening between the distributor and the company, that visibility has been always been a part of. But actually, who's selling product to a customer, that specific visibility was not there, but that has got built with the help of this technological penetration. To certain percentage, we have got those visibilities, and also other companies also got visibility, and that's where I think is an important part. But that too, also the percentage is very minuscule. As I was talking about giving certain figures related to registered license agri-input retailers in India is approximate 3 to 3.5 lakh. Maybe company might be running a program on 6,000, 10,000, 15,000 max, and out of which also hardly 50% or 30% might be able to record their information. So you could see the scope which has been there. A huge scope lies for any of the company in terms to run their channel incentive program effectively in that specific domain, and finally being able to access that specific information on a real-time basis. A lot of permutation combinations still been going on, and I think I would see that maybe in the next 2 to 3 years or in the next 5 years, things will take a shape a lot, and then it will really bring a lot of visibility. Considering the investment from the companies also been happening in the IT sector, in their own infrastructure development, in terms to bring the visibility, what generally happens in the other sectors like FMCG or the other IT giants, which started building the data. The importance of data being got realized even by these companies also. So a lot of work which is going to happen in terms to build this data information, data analytics, and then finally been taken a shape in future in terms to drive their overall business. And I would also see from a government of India a lot of work which has been happening along with the private companies also. A lot of public-private partnership which has been happening. A lot of deliberations in terms to bring certain acts or a bill changes which has been required. So I think we could see that the joint work which has been happening and the kind of paradigm shift which has been happening in this domain will be really exciting and helpful. And it's an interesting part to see and watch for this entire part.
Absolutely. I think you rightly said that this we are at a 0 to 1 phase right now, and which actually gives a very good impetus for kicking something off. And like the next steps are, well, it's dependent upon adoption. The market is ripe. The infrastructure is there for adoption of technology. In the field, it is how good you make. How easy you make it for everyone to work with you that will define how good the solution or the efficacy of the solution per se. Great.
I'll just share you my last travel last week. I was traveling to some of the market because my US colleague was with me and we were just meeting some of the parties. And still been wondering that that specific party might be using Tally as a software since very long. So like I was talking about when even we were in a school or a college, we heard about that Tally software came in the accounting and how it brought ease for all the people in terms to do their accounting work. And he's been using the Tally software, and we were discussing about some of this technological transformation which has been happening. And he's still been dependent on his new son, basically, who recently joined the business. And we were discussing about some information. So for all other related to digitization or related to an IT interventions, his still dependence is on his son who came into the business having access to the technology, whereas he has still been dependent in terms to get those information either in his own trade book or through tele software. Whereas his expectation for other information is been on his mobile.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so I think that's what I would see that that gives me a good confidence that maybe in the 2 3 years down the line, or maybe 5 years down the line, once this new generation will have a hands on the business, they would seek more transformation been coming in from a company side in terms to the way that they do the business or the way the operations been get done till now. I think their expectation has been more on convenience, solution driven, at their fingertips, real time basis. I think those are certain key dramatic change which I would see is going to be required. It's going to happen soon. Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Uh, uh, thanks, Ravish, for sharing those really helpful insights. I think it's been a learning even for well, uh, for most of the audience. I'm pretty sure. I was thinking that let's throw the field open for Q and A's. If anyone has questions, then maybe we could take those up. So, guys, you can see the Q&A tab out there. You can type your questions in, and we will pose it to Ravish to get his insights into those queries that you guys have. So,
Yeah. I think thanks, Advait. By the time people will write a question, so I appreciate that people would have given their own time to listen this conversation what we are having right now, and I think I'm happy enough in terms to answer to best of my knowledge. Uh, Whatever the practical knowledge which I can transfer to all of you guys, good enough.
Vikas has just said, hi, really nice insights. I think all thanks to Ravish for bringing us these insights. And I think Ravish, that
Yes.
this is such a huge field, right? I mean, I think I would love to have a discussion like this with you at least once in 6 months or so, to kind of see how things are moving and how you are seeing changes moving in the field, because you guys have also undertaken a lot of really uh, interesting projects, and these are something which are which are, while they're new, they are also something which you are also doing R&D with. uh, I have a question here. uh, so the question is, what method can we use to calculate ROI on retailer incentive programs? What kind of metrics should we track?
Okay, so I think the question is related to calculate the ROI on the retailer incentive program and what kind of metrics should we track. So first and foremost, the metrics is the sales only. Ultimately, I think the ROI is like you've been currently already incentivizing that specific money in your entire channel program, and you've been running that specific channel incentive program through a technological intervention, and it's been directly reaching to the retailer's hand. So the ROI in terms to measure the success of this entire investment is first and foremost related to your sales, which you have been assigned for. Second is about the information. Currently, to get those information, what are the pain areas which you've been heading towards it? And I think that specific technology which is addressing to get those information would be the key. So I think first and foremost, at the initial stage of your operation, it's going to bring at ease in terms to access those information and the building of that specific information. And second is about to measure that specific sale, whatever the units which you would be having in the seed or agrochemical. So your sales metrics at per minimum retail counter and that incentivization program is going to be your ROI. So initially the cost might be high, and that's what make a lot of company at unease in terms to invest into the technology or bringing that specific program to a forefront. But if company would see or the management would see a vision where they would they would be able to get those information and how this information get play a pivotal role in their entire business decision making and future upselling and cross selling, and that's where the ROI is going to be part of it. So currently it's an investment, but it's going to have a sustainable high return in future. I hope I've been able to answer with that specific note. I've not been, I'm not discussing very specifically what metrics we have in Savannah or what percentage we would be getting operated it. But the objective is in terms to measure the cost, considering the immediate return versus the future return, which is going to be part of it.
Got it. I think there are flurry of questions. So there is a question by Shashank which says, "What percentage of top line should be ideal for marketing, budget for channel incentives?" Going really deep into, I think PNL out here, but
No, I think 2 to 3%. I think you could take a target of say approximate 2 to 3% as a percentage of channel incentive program of your entire top line revenue. uh, could make it a successful initiative in terms to bring certain results been coming up, and 2 to 3% is an overall of your top line revenue, whereas if you try to translate to the retailer level, that percentage might go up, and that's what bring the lucrativeness for partners to come in or to make this program overall successful in terms of.
so Radhika has a question. She says, "Thank you for the informative session. Does digitizing an incentive program have an impact on final collections, and can that be measured?"
Yes, I think it's a very good question. Who has asked? Radhika has asked, huh?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, Radhika, I think if that specific visibility is going to be get created, so for example, I'll give you the example about your own credit card. So maybe you would be knowing that how much limit you have utilized, how much still got left, and when is the payment due, and what is the minimum payment which you could make in terms to make sure that your credit score or maybe your credit limit will get sustained, and that's what make you to be proactive in terms of your entire action towards financial discipline. And I think if that sort of visibility which is going to be get created with the help of digitization, by default the collection, the days of outstanding, the DOA is going to be improved uh, with the help of digitization for sure, and it's also going to help a lot in the terms of collection. So how exactly you're going to get driven that specific initiatives, and what sort of key metrics which is going to be get reflect, and what sort of financial discipline which you want to bring in, I think digitization is going to play a key role. And forget about this. I think a lot of good case study which has been available in the domain. Like Asian Paint is one of the great example where they were the first and foremost in terms to bring that specific transformation using the digitization part, bringing the entire channel, the whole ecosystem into a place, and how their overall metrics of collections played maybe got changed, and that's how their overall economic skill been improved. The credit period also came down. So yes, a lot of, and that's what is one also maybe later on in the phase. That is also one of the objective of the organization in terms to bring that specific visibility and collection drive and the improvement or reducing the credit period time or cycle with the help of this part. Very well measured. Thank you.
Thanks, Ravish. Uh, some comments also coming in. I think if you can see what Surinder Tiku is saying, he says, while digitization in sales and marketing as well as finance are gaining great momentum, I find reluctance to invest in IT usage in research, germplasm development to multi-location training program platform. This would help all to improve transparency and inform decision making for the new product advancement.
Very true, and I think Mr. Surinder has requested for this specific point, and I completely agree, and that's what I've spoken about. To bring a new product is going to require almost 6 to 8 years for any of the company in the seed domain, in the R&D driven company. And company also want to have a visibility, and that's what I think we work in the silos. R&D has been working into silos, product development is working into silos, sales and marketing is one domain, and then the finance and the other function, which is part of production, is also part of it. Whereas whereas we also wanted to have from foundation seed, parent seed multiplication, foundation seed production till the plant and then the finally end user, that entire visibility is going to be required. And that's where the digitization, I think companies started investing in some sort of solutions where instead of having in isolation, we are all having a solutions. R&D has their own way of modeling with Prism, TAM, or many other softwares. Production also been started using their own applications of different application providers and solution providers. Sales and marketing has their own sales effectiveness sort of programs and channel incentive programs and this stuff. For customer end, we also have the different CRM. So how can we have one single digitization platform where all this visibility can become the part of it for improvement in decision making and accessing that information at the right time? And I think that's where the whole shift has been happening, and maybe sooner or later all this company will be seeing the importance being get played by each functions and then bringing them in one single platform to make a decision for product advancement, also checking the quality and the other parameters which has been part of it when doing the business.
There's another question from Mr. Vikas Gowda. He says the general practice is to credit some points to retailers for the business, which he will redeem. I'm guessing he means for the purchases that the retailer does. The incentive programs gives him points based on the purchase that he's done, and this will be redeemed later. How do you see that changing? Interesting, or does that remain de facto? I guess. And is there any way of giving modern machines like drones to retailers so that the farmers get access to it and channel partners will be benefited as well? I think two very distinct questions. Uh, if you could pick them in
Yeah,
two.
yeah. No, so I think these are all tactics, Vikas, and thanks for bringing this new innovative ideas also into this line. So I'll tell you certain methodology which got used by us and maybe by other players also. So, for example, if I would plan a business with the retailer in advance while knowing his past sales and also the kind of my product performing in his area. Say, for example, I'm just taking an example in this case. Say, if a retailer would have done a sales of 1000 kg last year for a specific product A, and considering the performance of product A and his own potential, we could see that his target this year has to be 1300 kg instead of 1000 kg what he had sold, which is 30% higher. So I'll be incentivizing him or credit him an extra point in advance, which he could redeem it once he achieve his target. Okay, or to achieve to a certain extent 90% of his target or 110% of his target. So it's way of giving him an in advance point or advance maybe a sort of unlocking his benefit while just achieving certain targets. So first and foremost, he's already realized that okay, I have this much of benefit if I would sell 1300 kg. I have a foreign trip or say motorcycle or whatever, which is upfront in looking at it. I could achieve easily, and because I have done the sales of 1000 kg and now the demand of this product has been there, I just need to do an extra push. So by default, this sort of mechanism will be get used in the channel incentive program where we could map historical data, analyzing those historical data, give a forecasting number to a specific, and it's going to be customized target to the retailers. Those customized target and their own reward recognition incentive will be get assigned and can be given as an unlock for him. So yes, this tool and techniques is a part of this entire channel incentive program which happens, and that's where I think the data becomes the priority. Like how significant, how consistent is your data with that specific retailer in terms of the sales and the information, and since how long you've been running this program and the visibility which has been part of it. And then he should also be get assured that whatever the points are the incentive which directly reaching to him, it's not going to get bypassed to a distributor in this case. So I think this sort of mechanism has already been part of channel incentive program. And yes, if any of the company adopt and does this sort of approach, by default the chances of doing higher sales and being able to achieve the target is been I would say in advanced stage or maybe more productive in this case. I hope I have been able to answer that specific one. The second part, is there any way of giving modern? Yes, definitely. So I think this is part of related to mechanization. See, drone, like maybe other companies like Dhanuka, Bayer, Syngenta, Savannah, I think most of the companies been experimenting with this new tools and technique which has been there with us right now. And it is going to take a future shape once this entire technology and the process got established. Government has also been designing the process for usage of pesticide, insecticide with the help of drones, some biostimulant spray and other stuff, considering the public health in consideration. And also the crop which is adjacent and other stuff. So yes, I think the service model is going to be get built at the channel level first, or maybe the service model is going to be worked at the custom hiring center, or maybe the parallel mechanization which is going to be part of it. So having giving drone or giving spraying tools machinery at the retailer, it has already been part of it, started happening from certain companies been doing an experiment. Nurture Farm is one of them. A lot of other agrochemical companies been giving spray pumps, spray machinery, renting services. So drone is also going to become the part of it in future for sure.
Thanks, Ravish. I think there's one question by Divya which kind of resonates with me about a discussion we had some time back. He asked that is it possible to link incentive programs with advance orders from retailers?
Advanced order is it possible to link the incentive with advance? Yes, definitely. So what I was just telling earlier to Vikas that if I've been able to predict his sales, it's like a forecasting model. If I've been able to forecast his sales and give him a target, which is sort of achievable also, but slight push. So with that specific one, by default, this advanced ordering system can also become the part of it. Because to achieve that specific target, he has to invest in the company in advance. He's going to invest more than compared to what last year he did, and by default this entire incentivization program can be get driven, or the beneficial part of it, I would say. The overall benefit can be transferred accordingly. So yes, advance order, more than advance order, it's also about the advance investment, uh, those rebates, and being making retailer committed for his assigned target.
Thank you. I think there's one last question I'll just throw your way. Shashank is asking, how do you see channel incentive strategies evolving 5 years down the line? Forward-looking question.
So, Shashank, and I think I would have already addressed that considering the technological intervention, penetration, and the education which has been happening, and the requirement got folded up. I think more real-time information is going to get inflow to the companies. And currently, whatever the leakages which has been happening, that still the incentive has not been reaching out to the retailer who is actually selling the company's product to the farmer. And that specific kitty still company has been giving since the day of their incorporation, since the day of their commercial operation. Company has been keeping a kitty of retailer and distributors in their entire price master, and that kitty has still been going to a distributor, but that specific kitty company wanted to reward and recognize to a retailer, and that's a large chunk of money company has to pay off, which generally got hold at distributor, and because of XYZ reason, the way his own credit systems get operate, the liability of the company from an auditor perspective. I think this digitization piece, the channel incentive program, is going to address the requirement of audit perspective within the internal organization. Second is that specific money will go to the right hand. And in the next 5 year, I would see that a huge transformation is going to be part of it. Currently, for example, if let's take the example, I would say that if we have achieved a 30% success in our program, in the 5 years down the line, I would see 100% success for channel incentive program to be get driven in Savannah.
And I think
And it's a matter of any of the companies. So I'm sure that this will become a standard norm.
I think to an extent, even the fact that the government has recognized it by ensuring that they have made their they have made their taxation policies to include any such incentivization, being given out to third parties, which I think till a certain point it was quite an unregulated market, just goes to certain extent to validate the fact that it is something that even I guess the government would be looking at uh, succeeding and would be driving to succeed in some way, because they are seeing this as being a standard business practice and people are moving in this way. Although I don't know if taxing this or including taxation on this part is going to help it grow or help it, kind of not grow, but it definitely feels like this is something, or it is a direction in which organization would want to move to drive direct interaction and try direct connects with their retailers and direct incentivization with their retailers. So
Yeah, yeah. See, I think if you would see the direct benefit transfer, the DBT scheme of a government is incentivizing directly giving money to the farmers in his bank account. Is one step which they've been going too far off. Ultimately, earlier it used to be given to a traders and then finally from traders Arthia to a farmer, and we don't know that the Arthia generally been get paid off or maybe he's been holding up those things. The same thing has been happening in the industry also. So for me, the direct benefit transfer has to happen to the retailer. It's going to happen. The kind of infrastructure which got built up, like today, I'm not bound in terms to provide any in kind from my side to the retailer. I have a Paytm, I have a lot of other tools and mechanisms through which he's already a user and interface of those solutions.
forms, yeah.
It's just a matter of time for me in terms to incentivize him for which he's already been there, been part of that ecosystem. So yeah, I think that's what give me the confidence, and I think what Shashank has also been asked that 5 years down the line, you could see the evolution which has been part of, which has been happening in everyday domain, on this UPI side, on this digital payment side, the reward recognition side, their whole ecosystem which has been there on platform on mobile, and he's already user of it, and that's what makes very interesting being part of. Be it farmer, be it dealer. We have not spoken about the farmer till now, but I think the dealer, what we've been speaking about, the same customer has been there as a farmer also, and that sort of technology and tools is available in his hand. It's the matter of finding our own ecosystem and the way of incentivizing him or rewarding him for his action and behavior in favor of company.
I think we should definitely plan another session to talk about the entire farmer engagement bit also with you, Ravish, sometime sooner than later. But
Okay, is there any question got left?
I think we are done with questions, and we are also bang on time with our I think with the slot that we had. So I think what let's do one thing, we can wrap it up, and for anyone who's attending and has more questions, please feel free to reach out and send questions across to Ragini, who's managing it from our side, or post it to our LinkedIn page, and we will be sure to loop in Ravish, and he can come back with his opinions and comments on it. So I think we can close the session here. Ravish, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate this. I know you're a busy guy.
Sure. So that
You've been moving around.
everyone is busy, yeah, nowadays.
Thank you.
I
Thanks a
think
lot.
thanks first and foremost. Yeah, no, I think thanks to you, your team, and I think people who has joined the call. I think सबसे बड़ा asset होता है समय, और I think आप सब लोग मुझे समय दे रहे हैं. You've been listening to me, and it's good that we have been able to contribute to each other. My only submission or one point which I wanted to make to the participant or to the listener right now is that if you get a time, if you've been really interested to know or to be part of this journey of agri sector or rural sector, start visiting field, start going to the market, interacting with the retailers, interacting with the farmers, try to see what sort of technological changes which has been happening in that specific domain, and you will have hundreds of odd answers or hundreds of ideas will coming in. While sitting in the room or maybe discussing it, yes, you can always gain some knowledge. But my encouragement is, and to my team also always been there, that if we started visiting to the market, we come across lot many other stuff which has been happening at the customer end, and that gives us a great ideas in terms to serve him better. So if I think all the tech savvy people who's been listening it, working in this domain, encourage you guys to start visiting, interacting, spend some time day and night in the field, and I'm sure a lot of more insights which is going to play a key role. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ravish, and thanks a lot everyone for joining. And wish you guys a nice weekend and have a good one.
Thank you
Thank you.
guys. Thanks.